Yeah, I know for a while we tried going to Henry Ford Library in Dearborn, there on Michigan Avenue, right across from the Ford World Headquarters.
Yeah.
And we pitched the idea that we're a good group and we should get like free and all that stuff. So I guess they tried it for like 3 months, and I don't know. I guess we didn't pull enough people in or something like that, and so they said they'd have to charge us. So we said, okay,
Mm,
no, no thanks.
Hmm.
yeah.
So maybe you could run some kind of deal with like that.
Hmm.
So, well, if anybody's in Phoenix, next Tuesday is our in person at a pub.
Hmm.
So, or if you get time to drive down, if you want to, if you really,
Yeah. If you leave now.
That's a long drive. It can be
Yeah.
done in 30 hours, but it's a long drive.
downhill too.
That's right. That's right. The drive home's a bitch, but
I went to Carson City in 36 hours.
Yeah. So, but you get an extra 3 hours on the way here, so you make up for it in time zones.
sure. What time zone are you in?
So Arizona, we have our own time zone for most of the state because we don't do that whole we get confused about what time it is thing.
Yeah,
Um,
like we do. Yeah.
yeah. So right now California is on our time, and when y'all get confused in November, New Mexico will be on our time.
Okay. So it's 6:35 here. What time is it there?
So it is 3:30 here, 3:35.
Wow. Wow.
That's why I say this makes it hard for me during the week or during the school year because this is about the time I get done with work, but the same
Yeah.
time I need to pick up the kid for school activities,
Ah,
right? After school activities.
ah. Pick up
And
the
you're
kids from school. That was your reference to school. I thought,
yeah.
what are you taking night
And we have
classes?
yeah, no, we have had Tuesday cross country and track meets.
Oh
So
boy.
during the school year, there's only a few Tuesdays I get off. Uh,
And here in June, you're good to go.
yeah, and then and that'll change. It's a different school next year, but we then for those though they tend to be done by about 6:30, so I can make it to the 7 p.m. Local event
Uh,
on time. Uh, so depending on
hmm,
traffic and stuff and how far away the one we it was I got to take the freeway nobody else knows about, and it was 40 miles but no traffic.
hmm, hmm. So we'll get started in about 3 minutes.
Okay,
Officially started.
all right. Let me go. I'm gonna take a short break here.
I stepped away for a second. You guys run Hans off? What happened?
Yeah, you missed the whole meeting. It was
Oh,
great.
man.
It was great. Yeah, epic. So did you guys see Raspberry Pi went public on the London Stock Exchange yesterday?
Yeah, pretty wild, huh?
They did quite well too. Second biggest
Yeah,
IPO this year.
great.
Yeah.
But now they just bring the prices back down.
Are
Yeah.
the prices up right now?
So I don't know how long it's been, but we used to be able to buy, a $60, even a $35 Raspberry Pi,
Yeah.
and then that's why you get like the whatever the Zero for $10, even $5 at Micro Center.
Hmm.
So I haven't been finding prices like that around.
Hmm. supply chain.
Well, since they've gone
issues.
IPO, I don't think it's likely the prices will be going down anytime soon.
Yeah, the
Well,
Raspberry 4 and 5, if you get a complete setup, you're looking at over $100. More like
yeah, but how much of
125.
that is Raspberry Pi's fault? You know, I would guess a lot of that is the resellers.
Hmm.
And I know there was a shortage of them, so that was driving the price up.
Yeah. And then people realized, I've been watching YouTube videos, people realized you could just get one of those, used one of those little mini PCs for like $80 or $100, and you got something that's like a Raspberry Pi, but is like
Yeah,
10 times more powerful.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Pi went up because they couldn't get parts, just like everybody else, a little bit. And then the other thing is they changed their production so to be less oriented towards the community and towards certain government and agencies. So they expanded production, but then we're selling that to the big customer.
Yeah, the article I read said like 70% of their sales are to industry and government, and only 30% is to hobbyists and educators.
Yeah, when I was at Ford, we were looking at them for monitoring. I mean, if you go and you put a camera somewhere, well, how do you get that camera to talk to the data, back to the database and all that stuff? And the Raspberry Pi was a real cheap thing. In fact, they were looking at this software and hardware combo that would allow you to push, new versions of software out to a fleet of Raspberry Pis. And they were talking about managing this thing, big time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Build a 10 node cluster for less than $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably less than 500. All right, I think
headlights.
I think we're ready to get started here. You guys ready? Okay. So welcome to the June meeting of MUG. We're glad to see you all. It should be a real interesting meeting tonight. We've got Hans here to talk about Mastodon and the Fediverse. We'll get into that in 15 or 20 minutes. Before that, we got a little bit of MUG business to take care of. First off, if you could please silence your cell phones, turn off ringers, all that stuff, or what Craig would always say, as well as you're willing and or able to do so. So we'll maintain that ritual. Please turn off your cell phones. At least turn off the ringers. Let me introduce the board of directors. The those of us who put this meeting on every month. I'm Jim McQuillan. I've been around here for a long time. I think I joined in '86, so that's a little while. We've got Wolf. Wolf, you there? Raise your hand. There he is, waving his hand. Dave Satwitz, who is on assignment tonight. He's someplace out of town doing something important, I'm sure. Justin Triplett, I think he's here. I don't think he's got his camera up.
Hey, I'm here. Yeah, just on the phone.
Yeah, I think he's in the car still. So
there's mobile operation.
Mobile. Richard Williams, there he is, waving his hand, and our newest board member, Joe Ryan, coming all the way from Lansing, Michigan. He's
up here.
He's the one. He's the one having a snack while we meet. So that's our board. Welcome. Great to see you all. Membership. Normally Dave would cover the membership, but in his absence, I guess I'll take care of it. And that is, we are a free organization. We always have been. Anybody's free to join us, show up at the meetings, participate with us. However, we do have some expenses. We got to pay for Meetup, and we got to pay for a few other things. So there's an opportunity for you to become a paid member. The dues are $50 a year if you'd like to help support the organization. We do have a student membership, $10 a year, and an online patron membership, $10 a year. And then we have a corporate membership. Our corporate sponsors typically pay us $200 a year, and that goes a long way to help us run this massive organization that we have here. We like to cover jobs looking for people and people looking for jobs. So if you know of any jobs out there, any companies, we used to always get Gib to tell us about what was going on at Ford, and then at American Airlines. Now, Gib, do you have any jobs you know of? You just
No,
happily
no, I do
retired?
not. Sorry,
Okay.
I have not been
Okay.
paying attention to any of that. Although I did see a post from the NSA, so National Security Administration. Yeah, I'm still on their distribution list from when I was applying. So apparently they are looking. Yeah,
one of
but
the
I think you have to
three-letter
go.
acronym organizations.
Did you have to go through all the security stuff to get the job though?
Yeah. Who wants to do that, right? Anybody else have any job postings that you know about? Nobody? All right. Let's move on to the next thing. That would be people looking for jobs. Anybody here actively looking for a new job or a job at all? Both of these questions have been coming up with not a lot of people either offering jobs or looking for jobs. I guess it's a good sign that everybody is employed as much as they want to be. Let's see. I'd like to thank our sponsors. We have Avaris, Penguicon, Altair, and A2 Hosting. They help us by giving us either money or internet space or books to give away. We're gonna have to get back on the book giveaway. Craig always handled that really well. We're gonna have to reestablish our contacts with some of our sponsors. Speaking of books, we do have our book sponsors. No Starch Press has been very generous in the past several years. Manning Press and Tilted Windmill Press. I think Tilted Windmill, that's Michael Lucas's organization, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have been following him, but he's been working on the build your own mail server book. He's been working on this thing for over a year, and he just did a Kickstarter on it, raised something like $76,000 for this book. It's amazing what he's done, and he says he's written a lot of books, and he says he's going to have this book out, hopefully published on the bookshelves in August. At which time we will get him to come here and give us a presentation on running your own mail server. And
Nice.
he always gives a great presentation on whatever he's talking about. And I've been looking forward to this one for a long time because I used to run my own mail server and I just got tired of it. I gave up because I didn't feel like whacking any more moles. But I'm really looking forward to seeing his book and listening to his talk about it. So that should be good.
I know the whole campaign has been pretty stressful, so I'm sure right now he's probably napping.
He's taking a good long nap. Yeah. One of the things you want to do with our group is stay connected. We've got a number of ways you can be connected. Obviously, we have our mailing list announcement that goes out every month. We've got our website, www.mug.org. We have mailing lists. We have an announced mailing list and a discuss mailing list on that website. If you want to make sure you don't miss a meeting, please sign up to the announced mailing list. Then you'll know about future meetings. We also have a Facebook group that I've been posting the announcement on. We don't get a lot of traction on there, but yeah, we'll put the announcement out anywhere we can. We have a LinkedIn presence. Sharon Kawani usually posts it out there. I'm not sure if he has lately. I'm going to try to reestablish that. We have Meetup. We're at something like 1,020 members on Meetup now, which is pretty good. Other ways,
The YouTube channel is always a good one. That always
The
reminds
YouTube
me.
channel, yeah, we always record our meetings. I got to get in to figure out. Craig used to edit the videos afterwards, and I haven't done that the last couple times. I'm gonna have to get in and figure out how to do that. We do have our past meetings out there. As this meeting will also be out there. We are live streaming this meeting right now, and the recording will end up out on our YouTube channel.
So you have Mastodon as well.
I'm sorry?
You have Mastodon.
Yeah, Justin just set up a Mastodon. What do you? We're going to learn more about that in a couple of minutes. But what do you call it? It's an account or a what do you call it?
It's an account.
Okay.
Think of it as an email account that posts publicly.
Okay. Well, we're going to start utilizing that. I'm looking forward to seeing what Hans can teach us about Mastodon and the Fediverse, and I really want to start utilizing that as much as we can. So we do have an account out there.
Yeah, it's on hachyderm.io. Mug at hachyderm.io.
Oh, you're in the car, right? So I'm going to put that in the chat, and that's that's spelled like @mug at.
Yeah, @mug at hachyderm.io.
Okay, that's our. I just put that in the chat. Hope I spelled it right. So yeah, it's a new venue for us.
I was able to tag Hans here, and we actually got some participation from somebody else as well.
Excellent. Well, let's see how far we can take that. It'd be great. Upcoming meetings, we are scrambling right now trying to get people to set up to give us presentations. We got several ideas in the hopper right now. We're just trying to pull it all together. Nothing confirmed yet for the July meeting, and that's going to be July. July 9th, I believe. The next meeting will be July 9th. We'll get an announcement out there just as soon as we have something to announce.
Okay.
I don't know how many of you guys were at our last meeting, but it worked out really well. We had we did a little coding thing with the Advent of Code website, where a bunch of us created solutions to the Advent of Code problem number 1. This was Advent of Code 2023. We all solved the first problem, and I did Perl. Wolf did Python. Justin did He did JavaScript and Rust. Dave Satwitz did Swift, and then we had 2 people volunteer. I think John Gruber. John, what did you do? You did the SED pipeline, didn't you? Is John even here? Yeah, there he is. You did the SED pipeline, right?
That's right.
In Bash. Could I? I'll get back to you in just a minute. What I wanted to announce was that we have decided to put up. Mug has a GitHub account, and we put all the source code for the 5 solutions that we had up in a repository on GitHub. Let me go to that website. Wolf, are you there? Can you paste in the channel the URL for our Mug GitHub?
Yeah, it'll take me a minute.
Okay, if you could take care of that. And so, John, what I was going to say to you was, can you either send us your source code for that SED pipeline that you did, or better, clone the repo and add it yourself, and then commit it. And then I don't know if Wolf, can he do a push, or does he have to send us a pull request?
He has to send us a pull request.
Okay,
He's
so if you
got
can
to fork our repo, and then push a branch to his own forked copy
Okay.
of the repo and then a
Okay.
pull request.
Okay, if John, if you want to do that, great. Otherwise, if you just want to take the easy way out and just send us that source code to your solution,
Okay.
we would gladly take that, and then we will add that to the repo. And somebody else solved it in Bash, and I didn't write down who that was. Is that person here tonight, or does anybody remember who that was? No. Okay.
Actually, I do know who that was. He actually came to the Python user group that met last weekend.
Really? Do you
and
have
so
the
he
ability
just
to
joined us
contact
there
him?
too.
Okay.
Yeah, I could contact him. You want me to see if I can get a copy of his solution?
Let's get his into our repo as well. What we're going to try to do is
Yeah, for sure.
any mug meetings that have any bits, source code or anything that we presented during the meeting, we're going to create a repo for that and put it up on our GitHub site. And that way people can clone it and look at it and hopefully learn from it.
Yeah, that might be a fun project to go back in time and try and put some of the old meeting bits in there.
Yeah, and I'm we always try to collect the slideshow too. And in fact, Hans, when you're all done, if we could get a copy of your slideshow, that'd be great. I know some people would rather us not, but
I can give you
for
a
anybody
turbo with the source code.
yeah, for anybody that does that, we're going to put that somewhere. I don't know if we're going to put the slideshows in the GitHub repo, or we'll work that out. I'm not sure what's the best way to do that, but if there's source code, I think a GitHub repo is a great place to put it. So yeah. Let's see. I already covered the connect with us. Other groups in the area, there are a number of groups that don't even have to be in the area anymore, as we've seen. Obviously, we've got Semco. They meet. Is Richard here tonight? I don't see. Usually, Richard will talk about Semco, but they. I think semco.org is the website for that. And then MDLUG. That's also out there. What did you call it? Multi-dimensional lug, being changed from Metro Detroit Linux Users Group. That's out there. Hans, you got the Phoenix Linux Users Group.
Mm-hmm.
What's the website for that?
That is Phoenix Linux. We were like the last .us domain out there. We were in az.us, so phxlinux.org.
Okay, great.
Changed a few years ago.
Okay.
So, and I'll bring that up. We've got a online presentation this Thursday. I'll be talking about TechDebt. And then, as I said, we've got the Stammtisch next Tuesday for anybody that wants to show up in person in Mesa.
Okay. When you do your online meetings in Phoenix, what time do you hold those?
Those are 7 o'clock our time, so that would start at 10 o'clock your time.
Okay. I'm gonna make a note. 10 o'clock, phlinux.org. Let me add that to reminders, because I'd like to come online and see what you guys are doing.
All right.
phxlinux.org.
Yeah.
Sorry. Cool. I'm gonna try to be there. Anyway, there are lots of groups. We will set up. We do have a list of groups on our mug.org website. I'm going to work on setting up a little slideshow to start our meetings so that we have all this information in front of you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, we always had one. Craig had it, but it was a PDF, and the copy I have is quite old and it's really outdated. It doesn't show all the people that are currently involved. So we're going to redo that. In fact, if you guys have any ideas, Wolf and I were discussing this before the meeting. I'd like to do the slideshow in a text-based tool. Like the presentation, I think should be rendered in a browser or something. But I'd like to edit just text files to make it happen, and then put that in our GitHub in a GitHub repo so that any of us can get at it and use it.
So
I did a
Doc.
presentation at a conference, and I can't remember what the tool's called. I'll look it up though. It was really nice. It was just Markdown. You edit in Markdown, and then
Markdown with the ability to have
I think I've
images.
used that tool. I actually do a presentation of TMUX, and I used a tool called MDP for Markdown presentation, and
MDP.
it's available on Debian alikes. It's not available in Fedora anymore, oddly. But I've used it successfully to do presentations in all glorious text mode.
I would like to render something that we could have images in.
Well,
and I know Markdown would support that.
Yeah, so you can do that with Markdown, but I use AsciiDoc, which is like Markdown if you had before Markdown. And that's what tonight's presentation is done with. And you can render that out as either HTML or PDF. I've been doing PDFs for a while because it's just easier to control what the space is going to look like, right?
Sure, but you edit it as a text document?
It's pure text. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't need a fancy tool to do it.
It includes being able to include files. So, like my resume is done in AsciiDoc as well.
Okay.
So I can include, hey, this is my management resume. Include the management version of my job, or this is the engineering resume. Include the engineering version of my resume.
Okay. I'm definitely going to check that out because we could set up. We need like 10 or 12 slides, a couple of graphic images.
So one of the presentations I do is how I do presentations. So I can give you a presentation on using AsciiDoc for presentations.
On how to do presentations, yeah.
That one's kind of short, but yeah.
I just threw it in the chat. That's the one I did at Asia BSDCon called "Look at Me."
Look at me. Read the docs.
Yeah, that one's nice.
Cool.
Docs.io/en latest. Okay, I'll check that one out as well. And hopefully by next month we have a more professional looking intro to our meetings. Okay, I think I kind of covered everything I think I needed to cover. I think we're ready to jump into the presentation. So let me introduce Hans. He comes from Phoenix, Arizona. He has given a talk for us in the past. It turns out when I set that talk up, but I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't even remember why I wasn't. But somehow I was not able to attend. But so this is my first time seeing Hans, and I've interacted with him several times. But he's going to tell us all about Mastodon and the Fediverse. So I think I can turn it over to you now, Hans.
All right. Well, I think we've got the slides up. Can everybody see those?
I see it.
All right. Make sure we got that. Cool. So talking about Mastodon and the Fediverse. And this is kind of important. We hear a lot about Mastodon at this point. It's kind of big, but there's a lot more to it. Just like, with free software, we hear a lot about Linux, but there's a lot of other projects that are going there. In fact, they're composed of many other projects. So I'm talking for y'all tonight. Put your logo in there. I manage a database support team and engineering team for Rackspace. All right, let's go ahead here. So places to find me. I get this question a bunch of times. So Siegel is organizing right now. If you'd like to help us put on a really cool conference, that's in Seattle. You don't have to be local. I've been helping with Seattle for Siegel for years. And before the pandemic, I would fly up, one weekend a year. And during the pandemic, we were doing it, remote. We've gone back to hybrid, and I flew up last November for a great conference and some fantastic Indian food. That's my favorite Indian restaurants up there. I've been there twice now. It's just amazing. But our CFP is open, so if you've got a talk that you'd like to do, go ahead and please put that in for the November conference. And then as we talked before the meeting a little bit, I will be talking this Thursday on solving tech debt. That is at 7 o'clock Arizona time, which is 10 p.m. 2200 for Michigan time. And that'll be online. We use Big Blue Button, so you'll be able to follow URL there and get in. And then places to find me. This is actually part of the reason I put the slide back in. I've taken out a bit recently, but since I'm talking about the Fediverse, I figured I should put in big letters where to find me on the Fediverse. So that's got that. And then I'm also often in IRC. I think I'm not right now for Verizon reasons, but that's just, it's technical. It's nothing. Not that I suddenly started hating IRC. Sorry. And then that's the code to get to my Mastodon account if you want to zap on that. All right. So before I talk about the Fediverse, I'm actually going to use the Fediverse a little bit, use one of our social norms. So we use CWs, they're called content warnings. And so for those of us that have been around for a while, we're used to this for spoilers, right? You do ROT 13 on stuff like that so that so people can't see what it is. They have to go look at it. Content warning, you have to go click on, or you can set it up in your client because it's once the data is on your computer, you decide how you want to deal with it. But the default is you go click on it in order to see the information behind the content warning. And we do that for a variety of reasons. It can be something serious. I'm going to talk about death. I don't think this is a new topic for anybody in this particular group because it has to do with a particular group. But it can be for other things as well. So for instance, it could be about politics. And this is some of the most important politics that exists in the geek community. First, as Jim mentioned earlier, congratulations to Michael on his successful Kickstarter. But I'm going to talk. I said I'm going to do politics. So I use Alpine as my mail user agent, and that's been going on as a fight for even longer than VI versus Emacs. So, but we can use it for different things, right? So you can use a content warning in order to avoid spoilers, whether that be what's going on in a TV show or for a joke or something like that. But also we really encourage using it for things that might be controversial or triggering for people. And that was why I initially put in here. One of the things I'm going to do tonight is talk about Craig. We'll get to that. But let me say first what the Fediverse is. And if you haven't figured it out right, I'm not a very serious person. So Fediverse comes from the combination of FE for iron and diverse, because those are really important within the community. We are very enthusiastic about our iron and other metals. One of the reasons for bringing Craig in, but also diverse, and we'll get to those two things. This evening's presentation specifically for Craig. As I said, I added this when I updated the presentation for Linux Fest Northwest. All right, for the metal part, who are we? We like our metal. We can be loud and get into heavy topics. We have divergent interests, opinions, hot takes, hashtags, right? We are a social group. All the things you can see in a social group, you can see on the Fediverse, right? And some of the things that you can't see in a social group, we can still see on the Fediverse. And then I met Craig initially, and one of the first places where I started talking to him specifically as a person in the IRC channel was when he was talking about his Open Metalcast podcast. I finally got to try it out, and I was like, wow, speed metal has changed since I last listened to it. And then I realized I had my podcast player on 2x. So it was really fast. But when I moved it back down to 1x, it was still really fast. That I found that amusing, and Greg's like, yeah, what were you doing? All right. So who are we in the Fediverse? We have only the most beautiful people, but not so much like these guys, more like this, right? We are a very strong LGBTQ plus community. A lot of the founders of the Fediverse and projects that we have are gay, lesbian, trans. We have a lot of people that are moderators and other strong members within the community that are there. And we think that this needs to be a safe place for people to be who they are. And so we do our best It's not perfect by any means, but we do our best to protect our communities, whatever their background is and their interests. All right, who was Craig? This slide I should have left out because you all could tell me, right? But I'll tell you the things I know as somebody who actually never got to meet him. I've only met him online, and since COVID started. I think we met online right before that, but never got in person. So obviously he was a stalwart member for MUG, y'all, right? He was a member of the Fediverse before the Fediverse started, and I'll get to that when we get to the history a little bit. He was really a strong member of Pepper and Carrot, and I actually didn't realize how much of that until recently. David Ravoy put out a nice homage to Craig that's worth reading. He's been persistent within the community. A lot of things he's done over the years really made a difference within the free software community to me. He was a podcaster, I already mentioned, Open Middlecast. And of course, the thing I'm going to concentrate on tonight is he was a Rush fan, which is the other reason we started talking. And I would normally wear, for these types of presentations, I would normally wear a t-shirt from a geek event, like here's Linux Fest Northwest. But I'm going to specifically talk about some of the Rush things tonight. So I thought I would go ahead and wear a Rush shirt. We started doing Rush for Craig. He'd started basically a Rush album a week, and got a few of us, including George, who I believe used to participate in MUG, to listen to a different album every week. We've continued that on, although we're not as good at timekeeping as he is. I guess that's a strong theme for those of us around him. And we're continuing that. This week we're doing Farewell to Kings, although this presentation is becoming a farewell to Craig. Hadn't quite meant it that way, but it worked out. So if you'd like to participate in that, hop on Mastodon and participate and listen to some great music with us on our own. So, but what is the Fediverse? It's a community. It's the people we meet, the people who create it, the people who run it. And this is actually an important part, is not just the people who are talking, but the people who keep it up and running, right? And yes, all those are my penguins and my pufferfish and another pufferfish. So got lots of free software stuff. And something you all don't have, we have an aquarium out here that sells a pufferfish t-shirt with a pufferfish and a saguaro. And they had it only in women's shirts for the longest time. I'm like, get that in a men's shirt, please. All right. Fediverse description. So the way I describe it is it's a coalition of decentralized, interoperable digital social spaces. It's a lot of different words in there put together. Think about it as email that you can post publicly with, right? That's kind of what it is. You can, and then email where you can subscribe to what other people are posting as well. Decentralized, it's not all in one system. Not one person controls it. Not one group of people controls it. It's interoperable. It has to be in order for those different decentralized groups in order to be able to work together. It's digital because that's what we're doing. Is all online. And then it is a social space. It's a place for us to be humans and go do the things that humans do. Features, so many providers with local control. So each different instance can have its own rules, and we'll talk about those later on, and they can have their own means of enforcing those rules or not enforcing those rules. As I said, there's no centralized authority. So Eugen started Mastodon, and while Eugen has control or significant control over what code gets into Mastodon client, it's under a free software license, so you can fork it, and forks have happened. And so there are forks that have features that Eugen doesn't want to have in Mastodon. There are non-Mastodon services. He has zero control over those, right? So he might have control over a little piece of the Fediverse, but there's nobody that has control over the whole thing. You can interact with other services. You can run your own, right? In our community, that's important. We like to be able to do our own stuff. And then for me, that's something that's important. It's just you default to an unfiltered timeline for everything that we've got thus far. They don't get to decide what it is you should see. They don't get to, the servers aren't saying, well, this person paid us money, so we're going to shove them in front of your eyeballs. Or I like this person, so we're going to shove them in front of your eyeballs. No, you get to see the content you signed up for in the order that it was posted as the default. We can change that a little bit. And then many providers, many services. Again, we don't have a central control, and you can have the type of service that you want to have. This is unofficial logo. I showed it on the title slide. Basically, it's a whole bunch of different things interacting and a diverse, and it's using color in order to show diverse people, opinions, etc. Now, who am I? I usually don't talk terribly much about who I am, but we're doing a social thing, so I thought I should talk about that a little bit. And then also, as I say specifically, I'm tying it into somebody else. So I'm a privacy activist. I do a lot of talks on different privacy things, password managers, security, stuff like that. Free software advocate. Activist. I've been doing free software stuff for a long, long time. Technologist falls into those things. I love writing shell scripts. They're just fun, right? I'm also a spouse, a parent, and a school volunteer. But as I explained to I had a new boss at work a couple years ago, and the first week in the office, she's like, "Hey, let's get to meet and find out who you are." We got interrupted. I said, "That's okay. I'm a Linux geek and I'm a Rush fan, and that really explains everything else." So we're gonna get that in there. All right. So history of Federation, and this is where I talk about Fediverse being bigger than what we think of it as. So we've got Usenet, email, IRC, web, RSS, XMPP, Jabber. There's a whole bunch of other protocols that have gone in there that have basically been what the Fediverse is. You've got decentralized control. Even Usenet was decentralized control. You had different, they all worked together, and there was in there, but you had different nodes in different places within the world. You had a split at one point where one group decided to stop talking to the other group, and drama and stuff like that. So we've had Federation for a long time. And those were social events. So we've got all those pieces for what the Fediverse is. But what we call the Fediverse today really kind of started with Evan Promerdo, with StatusNet and Identica. So this is what we think of. But when I say Craig was part of the Fediverse before the Fediverse, he's been around back in the days, as have I been, and a bunch of people in this group, I believe. So we've been part of the Fediverse since before what we consider today to be the Fediverse existed. And where we are now is basically down to ActivityPub. It's a W3C standard that was published so that multiple protocols, multiple different services can use it in order to interact with each other. All right. Specifically Mastodon. So Mastodon is a microblogging service, so you can do up to 500 characters in a post. Is the default. The Mastodon server you're on, the admin can actually change that. And then there are also forks that allow not quite War and Peace length screeds, but you can put longer pieces on there. And it's a feed of those microblogging posts. So you can go through. You can go, if you've created an account tonight, you can go follow the Mug account, so that when the announcement for next month's meeting comes up, or whatever else that Mug wants to talk about, you would be able to get that into your stream, into your inbox, however you want to look at that. It defaults to unfiltered timeline, but you can change that. So the way I've got it set up, I use the more complex web interface for the most part. And I subscribe to so many different accounts that it's just an unreadable stream of posts, so that I can't watch the entire thing. So what I have instead is I have a couple of different side channels where I watch for specific people or specific topics, things like that. And then in the case of Mastodon, and in pretty well everything, well, actually everything I'm going to talk about tonight, it is free software. So that one of the things to me to making it to where it's interoperable and we can have our own control, it needs to be free software so we can make our own version. If you get tight, get to where you really, really like Mastodon, but Eugen decides to go in a direction you don't like, you can fork and go through and create the version that you do like and continue using Mastodon using your own fork, right? Or if Eugen is not moving fast enough, you can go through and add features before he gets to them and stuff. So to me, it's important that we be able to, as a community, run our own future, whether that be with the service or with the code itself. All right. So the description from Wikipedia, you can read another time. Oops, I meant to get these out. I put the box away, sorry. Oh, there it is. They are also yummy little chocolate and marshmallow cookies. So it's a brand of cookies that are around here. But I take them to conferences and stuff and have fun. Key out of this description from Wikipedia is the users are in control. As I say, we can go through and make our decision on what we want our experience to be. All right. Some sample services that we have. So Mastodon is the thing that most people have heard of. It is microblogging. It's also a fairly easy concept to understand. But there are also other things. So image sharing, PixelFed, I'll talk about a little bit. Video sharing, PeerTube. There's also for people that want to do a book club, so read a book together and be able to chat about the book and put up reviews about a book. Full scale blogging. WordPress is adding ActivityPub into that so that you can be able to post to the Fediverse from a WordPress site. You do file sharing. Nextcloud is actually part of the Fediverse, and they're working on their ActivityPub stuff, but there are also other protocols they're working on to make it easier to do file sharing, the things that you do with Nextcloud. Audio hosting, link aggregator. So a lot of the things that you might think of their commercial services, we are getting as Fediverse services. Event and group management. This is the thing I still need to get into so I can be doing, like for instance, for Mug, being able to set up a calendar so that people can follow that, but they don't have to follow. They can follow it as RSS feed, but they could also follow it within their Fediverse ActivityPub client, whichever service they're wanting to use. All right, specific building blocks. I'm going to use a couple of different words that in English kind of can be interchangeable a little bit. So when I say service, I mean a different actual software base, whether that be Mastodon or PixelFed. So Mastodon for social, for microblogging, PixelFed for image sharing, PeerTube, but it could also be something else that is something else. So Pleroma is also for microblogging. I would consider that to be a different service than Mastodon, even though they're essentially doing the same thing and they're very cross-compatible. And then the instance is the particular domain that you're account on. And again, think of this as an email provider. So floss.social is one of the big providers, or not big, but is a common provider for us to use the free software community. Same thing with fossadon.org. I have accounts on both for different reasons. So those are Mastodon instances. Those would be instances. And then pixelfed.social is the flagship instance for PixelFed, run by Dan, the guy that started PixelFed. All right. So also making a reference back to the area. This is an image that David Ravoy did as a live art session at PenguinCon a couple years ago. So in the community, we have the people who are participating, but we also need the developers who are creating the software. I'm not going to highlight them too terribly much. I'll talk about Dan a little bit when we get to back to PixelFed. But those developers, the work that they're doing is critical for us to be able to have the environment that we have, right? If we didn't have the software, we wouldn't have anything to run. And it is interesting the itches that people are wanting to scratch, as I say, going through and creating a book club and different things. ActivityPub, there's no reason why an ActivityPub technically can't do all of those things, but there are people that are wanting to build a community around a particular type of experience. And as I say, this is, I think, one of the cool things about free software is we can do that scratch your own itch type of thing. So I like to see the diversity of the different types of services that we have out there. All right, PixelFed. So PixelFed is for image sharing. You take pictures and you can share them up. He's gone through and added a thing where you can do stories and you can do different pieces. He's also doing a thing he calls loops for short videos. So Dan is a non-programmer. I think his job before was dog groomer or salesperson or something. I don't remember, but it wasn't technology. And as I understand the origin story, He just figured out he was allowed to program and started doing stuff. And of course, for his first thing, let's start an image sharing service. And all the data that will be that will be entailed with that. Did a fantastic job, but he's also gone through and created several other different Fediverse services, as I say, loops, going through and doing short videos. He's also created a Fediverse testing suite so that other services can use that for testing their compatibility and testing how well they're doing with ActivityPub. Just doing a ton of amazing stuff. I'm certain he's not doing it all together, but just keeping track of all the things, just project managing all the things he's doing is a lot, much less the code that he's contributing as well. PeerTube is for video sharing. So you're talking about getting into the Fediverse for Mug, and that these are going live up onto a proprietary service, but we can also go through and post them up, the videos up later on once you've edited them to a PeerTube instance and have it on a free software instance, and you can have better control over your environment and be less at risk. Blender was using YouTube for their videos, and they had a takedown that took down all of their videos on YouTube. So they set up a PeerTube instance and got their videos back up online within a couple of days. They got it all straightened out with YouTube eventually and were able to go back over there. But having one where they get to control their future, I think is comforting. At least it's comforting for me as somebody who likes to go watch their videos. All right. Now, this is social stuff. A lot of this here is not necessarily Fediverse in general, so like using Firefox containers, but you can use Firefox containers to keep your different things isolated. So I run actually different browsers, but even within the same browser, I'll use containers for different accounts. I run the account for Plug, and that is just sitting in a different container, and that way I don't have to worry about cookies or other things like that interacting between the two accounts. If you're not familiar with Firefox containers, I really recommend you get used to them and play with them. You also have data liberation, and this is the part with like for Blender. They're running their own instance, but let's say they'd moved to somebody else's instance and then found out there was a problem with that instance, like it was going to go away, or they just weren't getting along with management, or they got to the point where they finally wanted to set up their own. With the Fediverse, we generally want you to be able to export and back up your own data. So we want you to be able to export your data and import that back into another instance. It doesn't work as well as we want it to, but we are doing that. We do not have incentive to keep you from being able to do that. You can hide your social graph. So since we're not making money on your social graph, we don't demand that you make it public or otherwise make it available. So opt out of search indexing. I do want to explain this a little bit. This is a Mastodon thing. So Mastodon by default will only index the hashtags that you're using, and if there's a title for your post, it doesn't index the entire raw content of your post. And that was done purposely for years and years. And Eugen fought doing full text indexing on posts. He finally gave in on that recently and proposed making that default and got a lot of feedback on that. So he did not make that the default. If you want to do full text indexing for your post, you actually have to opt in. So there's both an opt-out and an opt-in for Mastodon, but the default is just indexing based on your hashtags. Do be aware that there are RSS feeds that have public access to your timeline. So we'll talk later on about being able to post to different specific groups. But if you're putting it in your public timeline, that can be available via RSS feed without somebody needing to authenticate. So if you're trying to keep specific people from being able to look at it, or specific AI ingesters, your RSS feed is one of the places that they can get to it. And then there are a few companies on the Fediverse for now. Most of the companies that are on the Fediverse at this point are free software or otherwise community related. There are some artists that are trying to do their shingles. I mentioned Michael Lewis earlier with the book and everything, so he's on there, and so you can count that as a commercial account based on how many times he posted about his Kickstarter recently, as he kept hitting more and more reach goals on that. So we do have some commercial things on there, but for the most part, we're not wanting corporations. A choice. One of the cool things is that both Eugen and Dan and other developers, while they might make a client to use their service, and they might even have an official client for their service, they will highly recommend you try others and use the one that best fits what you want. So both of them do regular. I don't know if Eugen's still doing it. He did for a long time, but I don't follow him, so I don't see it. I do follow Dan, and so I see him talking regularly about working with other clients and the work that he's doing to help them stay compatible with his service. So he posts about the official client that's in the different app repos and things like that. But he also says, here's these others, go try those. That's great. You can move your account. If you're on an instance, you can take your information off of that. You can move your account from one instance to another instance. Still doesn't work as flawlessly as we want it to, but we are trying to get there. And you can delete your account. And the nice thing here with deleting your account, the incentive is actually for the instance to get rid of it, right? So they're not making money on it. It's not an asset for them to be able to hang on to content that you don't want them to have. It actually is a liability. So when you say deleted account, the instances are actually incentivized to actually delete the account for you and get rid of the data, so they're no longer using it or trying to sell it. Big Iron, getting back to my Iron theme. So I mentioned developers are creating the software that we use. Well, it also takes sysadmins who are running the software, running the infrastructure. Mastodon is several different services that are involved. There's Elasticsearch. There's a couple of different databases, or a database involved, web server. PixelFed's doing the same thing. PixelFed has a lot of storage. So they have a lot of different pieces on the back end in order to be up and running. And in order to keep that going 24/7, you've got to have a sysadmin team, whether that be paid through a hosting provider or something that your group is going through and hosting themselves. You need to be able to have somebody's got mic'd up. So you need sysadmins in order to keep that up and running. And sysadmins are if it's running 24/7, that means sysadmins are taking care of things 24/7. So thank you to them. And as a lifelong sysadmin, it's in my best interest to thank sysadmins, right? All right, but the bedrock for volunteers within the Fediverse are our moderators. And they really are for any publicly available social space, right? It takes many moderators to keep the Fediverse functioning. They do need to be able to respond 24/7. Apache doesn't crash that often, but drama happens. So they actually have to be more responsive, I think, than the sysadmins. Theirs is involves a lot more nuance. Apache goes down, it's down. Go fix it, right? Do I get a 200 when I make a request or not, right? So the federator or moderators have a difficult job. They get to see the things the rest of us don't get to see or don't need to see because they've taken care of it for us. So I appreciate that. Whatever instance you're on, please cherish the moderators that are helping keep that instance usable for you. And also do things that you can to help them out. One, use content warnings. If you have less posts that people are complaining about because you didn't put a content warning in that would have been useful, that gets less reports coming back to them, right? Be courteous to other people on your list. Treat if you want to be treated nicely, treat other people nicely. If you don't want to be treated nicely, there's ways to do that don't need to involve being on the Fediverse itself. We can get to that. And then if you do see abuse, do report it for one, because if you're seeing it, other people might be seeing it and they want to take care of that. But be polite with it when you do that, right? Because it's not the moderator's fault that the abuse is there. It's the abuser's fault that the abuse is there. Be polite to the moderator when you're reporting that in. And you get the opportunity to report it to both your instance moderator and the remote moderator for the instance that it came from, if the abuse came from another instance. All right, so moderation, you've got local instance moderators. Those are the ones that are moderating taking care of the instance, the actual instance that you're on. they will be moderating for your local instance rules. So if another instance has a rule that allows I don't know, pictures featuring cat butts, but your instance doesn't, your moderators aren't going to tell the other instance to stop posting things about cat butts, but they will try to help you limit the amount of cat butts that are showing up into your feed, right? So they're going to talk about the local feed. They can do instance wide blocks and they can do filters, as can you as a user. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the talk, content warnings. These are important, not just for controversial topics or things that might be triggering for somebody, but again, also just for spoilers and things that somebody might not want to see without intentionally going through to see it, right? And for me, if it's a spoiler about a really popular TV show that I want to watch, I need that to be content warned for at least 3 years because it's going to take me that long to get to it. I don't watch that much TV, right? And then one feature that's in there, I mentioned we can have forks. By the way, and another offer for Craig, decaf, bad. I've got my Thai iced tea. I have a backup Thai iced tea, and since we're system ins and redundant, I have a backup Thai iced tea for my backup Thai iced tea. All right, lots of caffeine going on today. For local posting, this is a feature a lot of people wanted, and Eugen is opposed to it for whatever reason. He doesn't want to have it, so he's refused to put that into Mastodon. Fine. People made a fork, and they've been keeping it up to date or mostly up to date. That allows you to have local only posts. And what local only posts are is you can post that and say this can't go past the instance that we're on. Right. So if I'm on that same instance and then I can get a copy of it if I'm subscribed and in the right place to do so, but I can't then forward it off to another instance. Right. The software will say you can't do that. Can I get around that? Sure. Once it's on my screen, I can screenshot it. I can copy and paste because it's plain text. There's a lot of things. It doesn't prevent a malicious actor from taking it and moving it elsewhere. But by default, it doesn't take it and move it elsewhere. It doesn't allow somebody to just forward it on. All right. And as I already mentioned, reporting problems, you can remote it or report to both local and remote when you're sending those out. Now, I mentioned local rules a couple times. Where do you find those? Okay, I found an instance. This looks really pretty cool. Like nocatbutts.org. That's the one for me, right? Well, you can go to the main site, and up on the top side of it will be a link to About. I've highlighted that in this particular slide. If you follow that to the About page, which I believe is /about under the main domain, you can get to the local server rules for the instance that you're on. This is floss.social server rules, probably as of like 2 years ago when I took the screenshot, so it might have changed since then. And then notice that in this case, he's also including how to contact the admin for the service. I think that's on by default everywhere, but somebody might be able to turn it off. Well, they definitely can. It's free software. You can go change it, right? So you can go look at what the local server rules are and find out whether or not they have rules that you want. One of the instances I mentioned, I don't know if they still do, had a rule about English only posting, which actually interferes with me. I speak multiple languages. I post in multiple languages, including just pure gibberish sometimes when I'm not thinking very well. So that was a problem for me. But their reasoning behind it, they said, was that they can only moderate in the languages they know. So they were trying to keep it to something like that. And if you read the rule, what they had at some point anyway, was English only, and we'll do our best effort for non-English stuff, right? In the case, this is the Mastodon that's social.
Sorry,
this is the main account for that, or the main instance that Eugen runs.
Right.
So this is the creator for Mastodon that's doing this. We got another mic on again. And so the Serverregeln, the server rules here. But one of the things I wanted to point out in here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying. I went ahead and.
Okay. Can we mute? Yeah, there we go.
I took care of it.
Thank you. Number 5, no content illegal in Germany. So Eugen lives in Germany. The instance is being run in Germany, and he needs to follow the local rules or the local laws. So that was one of the rules that he put in place. And so you can have rules that an instance have put in because they've chosen to, or you can have things that are, in this case, he believes forced upon him. Makes sense, right? Now, public visibility for posts. The names of these have changed in Mastodon recently, and they'll be different for other instances. So I'm just kind of using generic words that I think are useful. Public, everybody can see it. So that's just a public feed. It's available to anybody that's looking at your account. Unlisted, everyone can see it, but it doesn't show up in your timeline. So if they're looking at the output from your account, they'll see it. But if they're just looking at the timeline and there is a difference there, play with it to figure out what it means to you. Then it won't be in there. The main reason for doing that is if you're posting something that maybe you don't want all of your followers to see, not, like for instance, I had, whatever for dinner tonight. Maybe you don't want, if you've got 50,000 followers, which is, 48,000 more than I'll ever see, right? You might not want to show them all a picture of your dinner every time, right? So you put that in your public only. They can go find it if they want to, but it doesn't automatically show up. Followers only goes out to your followers. And then an important thing on that is it generally can't be forwarded, or at least there's a warning. Hey, this was posted kind of private. You might not want to forward this along. Direct message is only for the people that are named in the post. Now, notice it's called a direct message, not a private message. Just like all of the other social media out there, including all of the commercial ones, it is not encrypted end-to-end. There's one place that claims they're encrypted end-to-end. Well, there's actually two that do, but one definitely isn't. It is not encrypted end-to-end. There are several people that can see it. If you don't want other people, don't want other people to be able to see it, don't type it on a computer. Right? But direct messages are mostly private, only going to the people that are listed. But realize that instance admins for any of the instances would also be able to see them. So if you if you get direct message hate speech, you can still forward that over to be reported, and the instance admins can see that and see that it's hate speech that was coming in. I already explained local only before. All right. Accessibility. As I say, we do a lot to try to make the Fediverse usable and friendly for everybody that's participating. One of the things in there is where there's a lot of talk about accessibility, and specifically about doing image descriptions. I think it's funny that, well, not funny, but I think it's curious, I guess is the real term I was looking for, that the Mastodon posts are limited to 500 characters, but it's like 1,500 for image descriptions. So, it's not really the character limit that's the issue. It's just that Eugen was wanting short, sweet posts, right? And so that's nice. And the thing is, when you're posting an image, the thing I see generally people saying is you don't need to describe the entire image, right? You don't need to describe there are 1,500 stars in the background and this. What is it that you're trying to point out? And for me, I actually use image descriptions quite a bit because I don't get what they were talking about. So tell me why you posted this. Point out the thing that I was supposed to be looking at. I also have multiple places where I have images turned off. So if you don't give me a reason to go look at it, I'm going to ignore it. If you post a YouTube link with no reason what it is, I presume at best it's a Rickroll, and I'm not going near it. All right. So we have that. We do have some places that'll help. So there are some tags that you can use. If you're going to post something you don't have time to add an image description on there, you can tag it so somebody else will come along and try to add a tag for you, an image description. All right. So now why Federate? I think these are important quotes here, which have brought them in. So Christine Lemmer-Weber is one of the people behind ActivityPub. She was also one of the people behind founders of Media Goblin. And for you all locals, she was a PenguinCon guest of honor a couple years ago. But she said she doesn't think anyone, not even Mastodon unreadable characters, I don't know how I managed to do that, development team wants a monoculture. So we want to be able to be interoperable. We want the different services to work together. And that includes quote, competing services. So Mastodon wants to work with other microblogging services as well. And then Eugen created joinmastodon.org because there's a whole lot of things. Well, you can't even figure out where to create an account. It's no more difficult than it is for email. In fact, it's easier because you actually have some choices you can go through. But he created joinmastodon.org and many of the other services have a join site as well, but they point out other instances that they don't run. So he's like, you can, he'll block access to Mastodon for new accounts on Mastodon social, usually leaves it open. But even when it's open, he's like, here's all these other places. Go use them instead, right? And he continues doing that. Now, I recommend thinking about instances for themes and fandoms. What do you want to do? And for years, I've used, I go through and just make up a My Little Pony thing. So My Little Pony and geology, right? And if you're really into those, go find an instance that has those. And I did this for Plug before the pandemic, and I forget what it was. It was even wider afield than that. And like 5 minutes later, this guy's like, there is an instance for that. So there's thousands of instances out there, all kinds of things to find. And you can join multiple. If you can't find My Little Pony and geology together, or you just don't like them mixed, right? You can join 2 different instances. And avoid the one that has them together. No, that's just wrong. I want them rocks and magical ponies should be 2 different places. That's fine. Look at your moderation team, because the instance, the experience that you have on your instance has more to do with the moderation team than anything else, in my opinion. Do they enforce your local rules, right? Because just because they've got local rules doesn't mean there's going to be somebody enforcing it, right? So do they enforce the local rules? What does the timeline look at? And how is your moderation team supported, and how are they sustained? Do they get enough money in to pay them? Do they have enough people to cover 24/7 without it being just 2 people tag teaming, right? Being on call every week. Look at your instance size. Mastodon Social has millions of people on it, so it's hard for them to moderate that because there's just too much content. Whereas an instance that has 500 people or a couple thousand people, that's easier to moderate that because you don't have as many posts coming across. And then, as I say, enforced and unenforced guidelines. I've mentioned ActivityPub a couple times. It's a W3C standard that came out a few years ago. Mastodon was started before ActivityPub was published, but Eugen pivoted and adopted ActivityPub for parts of how it works. But the main part of that is it can then interact with other services. So Mastodon, Pleroma, PixelFed, Nextcloud has got a lot of work to go, but they're working on PeerTube. They're all working on ActivityPub so they can interact with each other. So I can post a picture on PixelFed and get a notice about that on my Mastodon account. And I can read my Mastodon posts on a PixelFed account. The PixelFed is more for pictures, so the interface for a bunch of little short snippets of text isn't fabulous, but you can do it that way if you want. And then for like a group here, one of the things that's cool is you can have your PeerTube account where you're not necessarily putting new stuff up every day, but every month when you get your recording and you finish editing it and put it up on PeerTube, the people who are following it can then get noticed that there's a new video up. So, and I look at it as cooperative competition. We all are better because we work well together. And as I say, that even includes where we've got competing services, Mastodon and other microblogging, or Mastodon and the forks. We still are getting better because if the forks fix a security hole and push that upstream to Mastodon gets improvements, right? So, in our environment with free software, we actually get benefit even from something you might see as a competitive service, and we're not trying to make money on it, so we don't have to worry about protecting our market share. All right. Now, I mentioned we run your own instance. There are things to it. There's some advantages. You get to choose your own moderators, right? So you've got Mug's already got a strong group of people going here to keep you going every month, and you have for a long time. Maybe you can set up your own moderator group, and you get to choose the moderators to have the local stuff that you want, right? You can choose your retention. So how long do things stay on the instance? Because you could go through and start deleting, especially images that are taking up space. Choose your filtering levels, all those different things. You can choose to run a feature fork. So if you want the local only version, you can run that instead of the plain Mastodon version. And do different requirements. You can run your own security, your own privacy. You can make. I bring up adult content just like everything else is. Whether or not you have it, you have it. But one of the things that you can have in the Fediverse is adult content. So you might want to be able to turn that on or off and be able to enforce that locally. Different instances have different ways of doing that. And the best example we've got, Murph and I both love this, is Dolphins.town. So there's an instance that's for poets where they don't allow the letter E. So when you post something, you're not allowed to use the letter E. You can't use 3 to represent E. You can't use an image to represent it. The letter E is banished from this instance as a poetic challenge, as a grammatical challenge, right? They cannot use the word the on the most word used in the English language cannot be used on the instance because it has an E in it, right? You can't use TH in a schwa to represent it. It's out. Well, somebody's like, well, that just, I don't like that. So they set up Dolphins.town that only allows the letter E, and all posts are dolphins screaming at each other. That goes up there with for those of you that have been around long enough to remember Hell.no, which was the town of Hell in Upper Norway that used to be you could send postcards from Hell. It's been around since the 90s anyway. So Dolphins.town goes up there with what amongst the best sites ever on the internet. All right. Now, walled gardens. So I kind of put this in here. Why would you want to run an internal instance, right? And only. So if you were doing this for business, you wanted to make this your internal chat communication or your image posting or your video posting, or you're doing your events if you're using Mobilezone, all the different things. You want to have an internal book club within your organization. Let's say you have a library and you want to have a book club for the library, but you want to make sure that that data is not getting outside of your library. You could set up a book club and bookworm instance and set that up, and only people that have library accounts would then be able to use it, and you could have your own rules for that. So there's a lot of reasons to do it that way. School, college, university, trying to protect information for their students. Medical provider, you think medical provider and social media, generally they don't go so well together, despite so many of them, but they're putting web bugs for different commercial providers. But a medical provider is also business, and they might have a reason to need to be able to do internal posts. But by making it an internal instance that doesn't federate with other instances, you've got something that you can be running. It has all the features, gets upgrades as you go along, and can be getting improved by the community, but you don't have to worry about this, or you have more control over the security and within the environment. And then for a club, for MUG or other user group. Now, another reason this is really where the walled garden comes in is maybe you want an instance that is counter to the Fediverse. So not every Mastodon account or instance out there is part of the Fediverse. There are some that we have basically blocked out. There's at least one I know of that joined the Fediverse, did something, pissed off a bunch of people, didn't get thrown off the Fediverse, but took his toys and went home, right? And is still running an instance that just doesn't federate with anybody. You can do that. And again, you get to have local rules for what's taking place on the instance that you run. Some disadvantages of self-hosting. Moderation is a lot of work, right? If you, especially 24/7, MUG, if you're centered on Michigan, maybe you can just say, hey, we've got moderation daytimes or something like that, right? But if you get an instance that's open to people on the planet, it's open 24/7. You could be getting a call for moderation at any time of day, right? So it is a lot of time to cover. It's also a lot of work to cover during the time. Not everyone can afford to self-host. It's not really expensive, especially for something small, but it is not free. There is not a complete lack of cost. And then, of course, the other thing is there are lots of other instances that are free where you don't have to pay for it. You can just join, right? Let's say that after all of this stuff, you've decided you want to join, you want to come in here. First of all, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Choosing an instance. As I say, there's a lot of hullabaloo made that this is difficult. The only reason it's difficult is because you actually have choice. The other things, you don't have a choice. You can join the commercial entity, and you only get to use their service and the way they want you to use it, and you will comply. because they don't care about what you do not have any influence over what you're going to have. Since you get to choose an instance, you get to choose an instance and look for an instance that will fit what you're looking for. But keep in mind, it's not a permanent decision. If you find an instance isn't working for you, you can move. I had that happen in that the instance that I chose to begin with wasn't working for me because they just completely destroyed the database and ceased to exist. That stopped working for everybody. So I created a new account somewhere else. All right, fine. So you can move. If you're doing the data liberation and exporting, you can actually take your old data from your old account and move it to somewhere else. If the account stays up, the instance stays up, you can also put a forward in and say, hey, I've moved over here. I believe Murph has done that a couple of different times. And there's probably others on here who've done that as well. Again, choose for local rules and how well they are or aren't, applied. Maybe you want to choose an instance that doesn't allow adult content, but they don't really care. You just want to be able to pretend you don't get adult content, right? Whatever. You can go for the free reign land that you want or not, right? Again, theme or purpose of the instance, size of the instance, number of users. But I definitely say look at the moderators, look at the admins, and look at how the instance is funded. It's not, as I say, it's not free to run. So look at their funding and make sure that they've got a somewhat sustainable funding source. If you have the ability, be part of that sustainable funding source and pay a little bit of money in there, right? For the commercial instances that are using your information to make money, you're paying with your information. That information is worth 10 or 20 or $100 a year for those instances, for those services. Well, okay, instead of paying with your information and your privacy, consider chipping in 10 or $20 a year toward your instance and help maintain it. Consider helping out with moderation or other ways that you can volunteer as well. The Fediverse is what we make. All right. Here's a couple different tags that can be kind of useful to follow. As I said, you can follow accounts. You can also follow tags. And the hashtag in front of the word is hashtags. Mug, we've got in here. I don't know that y'all use that, but you do now. You're welcome. Seagull for Seagull. Actually, I should have put plug in here too. But these are some different things that I found useful. Some of those are ones I created, but it's for trying to help with the free software community and have us find out more about activities we've got going on. Now I've talked about, we've got lots of great things. I've mentioned that we have rules in place. But rules do not keep everybody else from getting in there, right? We do still have bad actors on the Fediverse. It is a social event, a social environment full of humanity, all of humanity. While we try to keep certain behaviors off, depending on what your instance is, depends on what those behaviors are. We cannot be complete. There are bad actors that are intentionally trying to get around it, right? They come in looking like the sweet little person from the Midwest that y'all are. And Craig always was, never grumpy, right? And then you feed them at night and they turn into gremlins, right? So there are people that are intentionally trying to get around those blocks. We are working to keep them from doing that. As I say, if you do see problems that go against your local instance's rules, please politely report that abuse so that they can help weed that out. We don't succeed in keeping all the Nazis out, but that is a goal. And we certainly don't make money by encouraging bigots. The commercial services are making lots of money on the controversy because controversy sells eyeballs and eyeballs is what they're selling. We don't have that incentive. So we don't do that. We've had a couple of different instances that started that were, shall we say, pro-violence and specifically pro-violence against different aspects of the Fediverse. And they used our code and created instances and tried to federate with the Fediverse, and the Fediverse said, no, you can go off and do your thing. Freedom's fine. Go have your freedom of speech, but you don't have to do it in our living room, right? This is our living room. We get to set the rules. All right. So the Fediverse is what we build out of it. I'm running late, so I'm going to skip through this. And then the rest of this is actually informational stuff. And we could have anytime had questions, But I do want to give you homework. Go create an account. Follow some people, follow some hashtags. Glance at the public timeline. If you're on a big instance, there's a fire hose. There's just a ton of posts. But go look at what's out there. There is plenty of engaging content and great people on the Fediverse. And you don't have to find the same great people I found. Go find your own great people. Just go look and you'll find some cool engagement. All right. As I said, we don't have to get along, but with the Fediverse, it is an option. All right. Any questions? I have not been looking.
I have
So-
a question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gib.
Yeah, so my question is, so I'm out here checking out the different groups and stuff. There's a search capability, and the search doesn't seem to be very intelligent. It's not a very good search, I guess is what I would say. You know the exact word you want to use. You might come up with some of the instances on here. Do you have any hints on how to find the groups and things that might be of interest to you?
Oh, so you mean like on the Join Mastodon site, the search that's looking for an instance that would be like free software or something like that?
Yeah, where do I go to find something that is relevant to my interests?
Yeah.
I guess is the general way of asking the question.
That is the primary way. But honestly, just choose one that looks like it's got decent moderation, because since they all interact in general, it doesn't matter what instance you're on. So you can, I'm on floss.social, but I can follow accounts on, Hackaderm. So I'm following the mug account on hackaderm.io. So really, I say look at moderation and the instance size for what seems to be most interesting for you. That said, I went and specifically looking for free software stuff. The search wasn't as good as I was wanting, but I was already active on the Fediverse, so I found them by basically looking at my feed. So I don't know, and I haven't looked at it for a while because I haven't set up a new account in a while. Anybody have
that kind of ties into my question a little bit. You were talking about by default the hashtag is what's indexed, but not full text content. You can make a switch somewhere.
Mhm.
Does that tie into this whole search discussion, or what's an example of
two
why
different
you would
things?
want to do that?
That's why I had to ask that. So let me finish with Gib and then get to your question, because it is it's a different topic. I want to make sure we pivot versus confusing them. By the way, Gib, look for FediGarden. Murph, if you're still here, there's a couple of different different things that you point out that I don't have in my slides anymore. If you've got those and can throw those in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Right? Be willing to ask for help. These are join sites, by the way, for a bunch of different services. And I'm just putting up the slides and leaving them up for a little while so you get a chance to look at them if you want to. All right. So back to the question on the search. So one of the things with the Fediverse is there's a lot of us that are privacy oriented. A lot of people coming from the free software world that are very privacy oriented that are involved in this, but also for the LGBTQ and other groups that get discriminated against a lot and that get attacked a lot. They specifically wanted to set up something where they could be social and yet not have it just be out there for the world to find them and come attack them, right? They don't want to get it doxxed on their social media account. So they go the default for most of our services. Awesome. Thanks, Murph. The default for most of the services we have are to staying private or mostly private, and then allowing you to have more than that. There are occasionally somebody comes along and thinks they have a new idea of indexing all of the posts. They set up an engine to suck down all of the posts that go up on the Mastodon and throw them in a database and make a publicly available search database available. And then the community very much tells them that they shouldn't do that. Please don't. And we're going to block you from everything. That happens 3 or 4 times a year. And so we want to default to privacy. So by default, when you make a post, the hashtags get indexed and I think there's a title. I can't remember the exact differences and stuff in there. But like for the post for today, I put, hey, last night I was working on my post. Here's the title for it. I'm speaking at Mug, so I added Mug, and I think the users get indexed as well. Yeah, I'm certain they do. And then I put a couple of hashtags on there. So I put local group as one of the hashtags on there. So the post will get indexed for the local group hashtag and for the Mug user, and then also for my user, for my Flux Advocate user as well, right? But all that stuff like the title and all that doesn't get indexed by default. So when I go search, if I go search for a word that was in the title but wasn't a hashtag, because the title was just the text within the title of the top talk, that won't be indexed in the search engine to find this post again. But if I use one of the hashtags or use one of the participants, then I can go through and find it. As I say, at the end of last year, Eugen gave in to a lot of pressure and started doing full text searches. So those are available now, and you can opt into that. So I have not opted in, but you can go turn that on for your account. If you want your stuff to, like, let's say you're looking for a job, so you want them to be able to find you and see all the awesome things that you do, and please start giving you money on a regular basis, right? Then you might want to turn on the full text search, right? You might not care about privacy and just want to turn it on. You might just have an ego that wants people to see what you're doing, right? Actually, a non-derogatory, I wasn't trying to be derogatory any of that, but definitely non-derogatory for things. Michael Lucas, right? He wants people to know about his books. He wants people to come buy his books. So see, he probably wants full text search on so that people can find his posts, find out about his books. Yeah, he's hawking the mail book right now, but he's also got a book on GPG. He's got a book on SSH. He's got a book on orcs, right? Actually, multiple books on orcs, right? So he wants people to find that. So he probably wants to turn that on. Mug probably wants to turn that on as well. You're not posting about personal, private things for the group. You want people to be able to find the organization. You want them to be able to find your meetings and your topics you're doing. So maybe you want to turn on the full text search so that it's easier to discover you. Do keep in mind, though, that because we don't have a central authority, if I do a search on floss.social and you do a search on hachyderm.io, we're actually looking at different corpuses of data. So while they could both go through and index the hashtags, if I posted something that never made it over to Hachyderm, it's not going to be in their database. And for companies or people that want to go viral and be able to talk to all 8 billion people on the planet, all at once, that sucks. But for the rest of us, it's awesome. Because I don't care what 7 billion people on the planet say. Nothing against Swift, but it's not my style of music. I don't need to see every post a Swiftie ever made about her, right? I don't want to see a lot of those things, so I'm glad to have something that is just showing me the things I care about, and I don't have to worry about the viral stuff. Well, okay, when there's an SSH bug, that gets very viral within our community. So, all right. Did that answer the question? It was a long-winded question or answer and rambled a bit, but did it answer well enough what you were asking about the searches?
So yes and yes and yes and so yeah.
All right. Any other questions that we got? For those that haven't noticed, Murph put a whole bunch of different resources in the chat, so I'll grab those. And whoever is running this meeting, if you don't mind, at the end of it, give me a copy of the things that came up in the chat, because I can't be copying stuff while I'm doing this, and Zoom makes it a pain to make copies of what's in the chats. So, all right.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I wonder how I access that after the meeting.
If you're running it, it should pop up and give you, here's your chat as a text, hopefully.
Okay.
All right.
Just so you know, if you go to the upper right, if you bring up the chat in the upper right by the close button and the breakout button, there's 3 dots, and you can save the chat contents from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll do that at the end of the meeting.
Okay. I just copy and paste it. You just highlight it and do a right click and copy it.
That generally doesn't work for me although maybe in the web interface it does. Yeah. It's not great, but it's because it's not scrolling the whole thing. But yeah, there's there. Okay. Cool.
I've got a bit of a question. So yeah, I've been using Mastodon for a few years now, and made a bot, and I really enjoy it. It's a great platform. If anybody's ever been on something like Twitter, it's kind of like, yeah, it's very early stage social network with a lot of experimentation. You can do anything like, but it's also, yeah, the total openness is great. So you can do anything you want and make your own. Thinking about running your own, of course, yeah, moderation is like a huge challenge. Um, Past that, thinking maybe more technical or cost oriented, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges there? I have like dipped my toe into self-hosting with well, not like completely self-hosting with like one of the providers. And
Uh-huh.
it seems like you can get a decent value out of it, but I'm curious if like hosting images often, is that like a real big toll on your bandwidth because of federation?
So that can be. So I know a couple people that host their own single person instances and are happy with that. One is a very technical person, is on the board of a couple of different free software projects, and has done uh, things that I don't understand in technology. So he's a very capable person, but he's paying somebody else to run it and host it for him. Another person is a author who has fantastic squirrel and crow stories, amongst other things that she posts. She runs her own instance, and again is paying somebody else to go through and do that. I also have known of a couple people that basically running an instance out of their house or out of a box that they've got in a data center. The big piece with it is when you post something, especially if you're kind of popular, you get basically a slash dot effect,
Yeah.
where all these other instances grab the information real quick, and so you get hammered for a few seconds or a few minutes. So you need to be able to handle the instant spikes in bandwidth. And then the other one is that and the instant spikes in bandwidth can go on or be recurring if something goes viral and starts gets discovered by a wider community. And like for instance, worldwide. So if you post something, this evening after the meeting, it might hit the U.S., but it won't hit Europe until most of the way through your night, right? So you'll have different spikes at different times. The other one is the images. So every time you get an image in your feed, that shows up, ends up in your cache. So if you get a lot of images in your feed, you've got a lot of different images that are showing up in your cache that are taking up space in the environment that you're paying for. You can go through and change the caching on that. So you can say, keep them for an hour. If I haven't looked at it in an hour, too bad, I missed it, right? You can say keep it for 60 days. You might be able to put other rules on it. I don't know, but it's a database in the end. So if you're technical, the extent of the rules on the caching that you have depend on what you're willing to put the effort into figuring out.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
So I'm on. I've had an Octodon account for like a year, and I rarely use it, but I'm going to try using it more. But that's on the Fediverse, right?
Yeah, that's a Mastodon.
Yes. I'm sorry, what?
It's a Mastodon instance.
Okay.
So basically, we do a lot of dons for Mastodon stuff. So if you see something with a don, it doesn't have to be, because it's just a word, right? We can supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.social if you really want to annoy people that need to type things in, right? But Octodon, I'm familiar with that instance, and that is a Mastodon instance. That one might be running the fork. That might be one of the ones that's running the fork that allows local only posting. But it's still Mastodon based. It's just a fork of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm already following Murph.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the other thing is, posting. If for those of you that have accounts, post them in here so you can find each other. Post to the Mug account and say, "Hey, I'm saw the presentation," and that way other people can see it. And don't be afraid to follow people. Following people is not saying that you agree with their worldview. It's not a saying that you agree with everything that they say.
Sure.
Not even saying that you want to see everything they say, right? It is fairly low barrier to entry to follow somebody, and also low barrier to entry to unfollow somebody or to block somebody. Craig actually was really good at short-term blocks. He's like, oh, you're posting something I don't like. You're on your crap again. I'm just going to block you for a week. And then when you get over whatever it is that you're doing this week, we can go back to normal, right? It wasn't Eurovision. Everybody's into the Eurovision. It's like, just block me for a week if you don't want to know, because that's all you're going to see. The people that are into Eurovision make us free software activists look like we don't care about anything. So you can do short-term blocks on people, or you can do short-term blocks on particular tags, things like that as well. So follow people. If it doesn't turn out it works for you, unfollow them, block them, whatever. Right? It's like I say, think of it as your living room. Who do you want to invite into your living room to have a conversation? Sure. Right? And maybe you've got somebody that you're really good friends with, but last time they came over, they broke all the china and stepped on the cat, and you're like, we will talk in open spaces. You don't get to come in my living room, right?
Sure. All right, so maybe you can help me through this. I'm on Octodon. I'm logged in through the web. I can see my feed. I want to post something to the Mug account.
Okay.
Where do I start?
So can you share that screen?
Yeah.
Jim, can you share the screen? Share your screen.
Sure. Maybe.
Am I still sharing? Let me stop.
Yeah, I think I'll actually knock
Let me just hold on a second. Yeah, okay. I had a page of credits. I wanted to get that in the video.
Sure.
There we go.
Sure. Okay. Let me. I got way too many screens up here. Let me dig through and find the one.
Is it called Neo?
There it is. Okay.
You are the one.
I think I'm sharing it. Yeah,
yep.
I guess I am. Okay, so here I am. Here's my account on Octodon.
Let's see. In the upper leftish there, you've got the larger gray rectangle. Go down 2 more. Right there.
Yeah.
You type at Mug
at Hacky Okay.
And is it
so that's how I address it to Mug.
Now you're sending it to them. Type in whatever you want to type. And then if you want this to be a private message or a direct message, it's not really private, or you want to change the interface on that, down below you can change the visibility.
Okay, so right now it's public, which I would want. It's English.
Okay.
So now I just hit the OOT button.
Yeah, the toot button. Yeah. Oh, OOT.
Is that what
okay.
Yeah. OOT. Yeah. Okay. But I can include the images. It's like posting on Facebook or anything else, right? It's
similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can include. I didn't mention, but you can include surveys, and we can ask questions and stuff
okay.
Like that.
Okay. So here.
So would you recommend that he put a hashtag on a post like this to get more views?
If you wanted to.
What would I put? Hash Mug or? I'm already sending it to Mug.
You could do a hash Mug. You might want to do something else because Mug probably gets hit by a lot of different things. But let's try the thing I did. So put a hit return, and this is actually an important. And another one just for visibility, and then do a hashtag.
Yeah.
Local group.
Local group.
Yeah. Now, we would normally recommend putting capital L and capital G because it makes it easier for screen readers to see those 2 different words. And that's why I didn't say one. And then a space. This is a key point for Mastodon is it needs the space in order to register that as a hashtag. So now when you post that, you'll have the local group hashtag in there. And so anybody that follows that or clicks on that would be able to, again, potentially see your post.
Okay. So that's enough of a post. I can hit it, and it will show up on the mug feed.
Show up on the mug feed, and whoever's running the mug account will get a little ping.
I just got it. You might have even heard it.
I did not, but although I just got a notification.
I followed you. Probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I click on that. I see the mug feed, right?
Yeah.
Well, sort of. No, I see information about it.
Yeah, there's the top that's I just put like some metadata, our website and our GitHub.
Okay.
And then it
Okay.
shows the posts, which I did like an introduction post, and then I just posted about today's meeting 2 days ago.
Yeah, so
These
that
are
in there.
posts that you made. Okay.
Yeah, well, if you do
Posts and replies.
the post that you made won't necessarily show up over there yet because it goes to their server, and then your server has to notice that their server got the update because we're
Okay.
distributed, right? So that you
Okay.
know how some databases say eventually consistent.
Sure.
No, we're not. We're not eventually consistent.
What?
But that, to me, as a privacy person, again, I see that as an advantage, and as to somebody who doesn't want my social space overrun by large corporations with deep pockets.
Okay.
You know, to me, that's an advantage because we don't become a huge commercial target for them.
Okay. So these numbers down here, there are 2 posts on the site. There are what?
Yeah.
3 people. Mug is following 3 accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and there are 2 people following the Mug account.
From
Me-
your
me and-
perspective, I'm
Oh, okay.
following you too. But see, again, you might not be able to see everybody, and you can run into. So, for instance, I might be running from my Mastodon.social account. There's a lot of instances that have blocked Mastodon.social because it's too big and it can't be moderated well enough. Right?
Okay.
There's a lot of people who also don't think that he wants to, but even if he's really trying, with millions of
Okay.
users, it's hard to have good moderation. So a lot of instances have gone and blocked that. So even though you and I might be able to talk through mug.org as a third party that goes with both instances, we might not be able to talk directly because Octodon.social might have blocked Mastodon.social.
Okay.
Right.
Because you're
But
on Mastodon and I'm on Octodon.
Yeah. But again, to me,
Okay.
it's a feature, and it's similar to email, right? If you've got a
Sure.
domain that sends a lot of spam, don't be surprised when a bunch of domains block your domain.
Right.
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 And even if it's not spam, if it's sending out a bunch of things that we think are inappropriate, right? If you all you do is send Deadpool quotes to work accounts, you're probably going to get blocked in a lot of places because that's really not safe for work, right?
Sure. Okay, and one more question for you. Threads. Do you know anything about the integration with Threads and the Fediverse?
So speaking of places that we block,
Okay.
So first of all, let me say Threads are posts that have follow-ups. So you've just posted to Mug. If they then respond to you and somebody else responds, we've got a thread going, right?
Okay.
You've got a string of posts going together. Now a thread can be from one person, so maybe you follow up on your own post. This is the main thing people mean by threads is where you've got something that has multiple points that need to get broken up. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I'm not seeding them the word. So I'm talking about the word first, and then we'll talk about that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fair enough.
So so that's how we see Threads. It's been around for a long time. I don't think the word started in the Fediverse. I think it started on another service, whatever. But that's kind of what we see as a thread where you've got follow-up posts to something, and it's the string of posts that come out of that, right?
Okay.
Now, it's a successful word. It's a good word, which is why somebody else's marketing department decided to use it and try to steal that from us, right? They have chosen to join the Fediverse and start implementing ActivityPub, and can now follow accounts to some extent. They can post to some extent, so there is some cross-pollination allowed. From a technical perspective, They have not implemented all of ActivityPub. Honestly, I'm not certain that Mastodon has implemented all of ActivityPub either, right? But there's a lot more left to do on the thread side before they truly become technically Fediverse capable, right? There's a bunch of different features that are still missing. But one of the features that is missing due to size and just complete lack of concern from historical concern from the corporation's perspective is moderation, right? So the corporation has done a lot of things that don't have any moderation. They don't care about moderation. And as I say, within the Fediverse, we want it to be a safe space for LGBTQ. We want it to be safe for people, different races, and all that as well. And the corporate entity behind Threads specifically allows different groups that want to hunt them to extinction, or at least post that they do on a regular basis, and we don't consider that to be safe. So a lot of the Fediverse has blocked them because we don't think that they're good actors. We don't even think they're neutral actors, much less good actors, right? That being said, just like I was talking about with Mug can be the third party between you and I, even if our instances aren't talking to each other. So there are instances that are both on the Fediverse and federate with Threads. So there's still ways to get that participation. Or if Threads participation is just really, really important for you, you can go join an instance that does allow federation, right? So you
it's not. I was just curious.
Yeah,
because I know Zuckerberg made a big deal about how Threads had joined the Fediverse. And I was just curious where that went.
How it joined the Fediverse and how it was huge because they forced everybody that has an Instagram account to have a Threads account.
Yeah.
So it was huge by virtue of the same way that U2's album was huge on Apple and pissed off lots and lots of people.
Sure.
Right. But this is a good example. And during the presentation, I was not specifically mentioning other groups in that, which is, try not to advertise for them. But the point and Threads is very specific on that is we get to choose who we invite to our living room. We get to choose who we federate with. And we get to do that since we're decentralized. We get to do that at an instance level, right? Or really an account level. And as I say, there's no problem with having multiple accounts. I do. I run multiple accounts for different reasons. And so if I really wanted to be on that My Little Pony account, I might not let actually the geology one be the embarrassing one because I know so little about rocks that aren't metal. I might not want to advertise that I'm over there, right? So I might want to have that separate so that I can isolate that part from the rest of my interface. I know of a couple people that have accounts on foodie instances where they talk about food and dinner and stuff all the time, and they don't put that on their main feed. They're like, if you want to follow what I'm cooking, the recipes I'm doing, go join me over there. But if I did that here, all you would see is me talking about food and people complaining about how much I talk about food. So they do it separately.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Or, for those of you that use it, anything that any glaring omissions that I should have mentioned?
Yeah, the server that I'm on primarily is it's an online community, sdf.org. They sell like shell accounts and stuff like that, like we used to use all the time back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I contribute to them a little bit all the time, and I hope they're doing well. But yeah, that's cool. I want to say thanks to everybody who's been following too. It's nice to have an account that's getting some followers. Gib just followed. That's great.
Yeah.
One note I guess I had thinking about what Jim said. He was like, okay, I sent you a message. When will I see it on your profile kind of thing? And so I think that's actually you won't. If you just like go to hachyderm.io at mug and you see all the mug posts, but you won't see anything that someone just tagged mug at, because that is just like a public message and mug gets a notification for it. So it's almost like a direct message, but it's just public. Only mug controls what goes on its wall, like where it says posts.
Yeah. Okay.
One way to emulate that kind of like wall, which is more like Facebook style, if you at someone, you know, you get added to their wall where everybody is when they do that. Is to probably instead use a hashtag. And so maybe we'll have to like come up with our favorite like mug.org, so it's kind of specific. If that makes sense. I don't know if it supports dots or if we'd have to spell it out.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
think
there are a few places where we were known as just mug.org, MUGORG.
Yeah, so that's
we
probably
might want to
pretty
stay
good.
consistent like that.
Yeah, and that's unique enough, it seems like. If you just do hashtag mug, you will see coffee drinking devices.
Yeah.
And beer drinking devices and
Yeah.
you know, when I say plug, do I mean Philly Linux? Do I mean so yeah, common letter combinations can end up with operator overload. So. All right, any other questions?
I've got some playing in front of me. I need to poke around for a while.
Okay.
Then I'm sure I'll have questions.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we can just play with it, you know, go follow an account on dolphins.town and see if they're still posting. I don't know. And as I say, it's none of this is permanent, so you can go block stuff. If you find something you don't like, you can go, you know, follow, unfollow, and play with the interfaces. The phone interfaces will be different than the web browser. There's an advanced interface for the web browser for Mastodon. PixelFed is different altogether as well. And play with those. That's the part where I've failed, is I have not done enough to go through and play with the other services that much. I have a PixelFed account that I've made a couple of posts to, but not near as much as I wanted to. And I need to set up a MobileZone account for a plug so we can, you know, more easily post stuff about our meetings and stuff. And you know,
there's an awful lot here. what you your presentation was excellent, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that for us. And I'm a little lost right now in my my Octodon account, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, you go and look, right? There's their
sure.
Murph and I have done dueling presentations on Mastodon a little bit with a couple of different organizations, and both of us have got the other person to go, oh.
Nice.
You know, so it's just like, you know, SED, right? SED can do way more than what I use it for, but what I use it for is just magic.
Yeah,
I don't need to learn the rest of it. I'm great with what I've got. I would love to, because there's so much more magic that it can do. But the magic that I get is fantastic.
Speaking of dueling presentations, Craig has also done presentations on the Fediverse.
That is true. Should give credit.
Yeah, when he did it, that's when I created my account and promised myself I would start using it, and that was a long time ago.
So, yeah. Now
we're here whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Murph, I think I'm following you. I don't even know how to see a list of who I'm following.
If you go to your profile, unfortunately, you're going to get a list of who you're following. If you go to your profile, a little bit
Followers.
under your name and picture, you have follows and followers.
Oh yeah. It's kind of obvious when you say it. Okay. So yeah.
I'd like to draw parallels to, Twitter or X or whatever it is this week, but I've never had a Twitter account, so I can't directly send you from there. So
Yeah.
I was on Identica back in the old days when if you think the Mastodon interface is a little confusing, you ain't seen nothing from that. That was a great idea and a wonderful thing. And boy, the sharp edges were exceptionally sharp.
Yeah, I was actually slow getting on Mastodon because I still had Identica and StatusNet and Pump.io. And I was like, I'm tired of new services. I'll wait and see if it sticks around for a while. So, but yeah, I've been doing the, to me, Fediverse started even before those things. But what Evan did kind of shaped what we think of as the Fediverse today. And I'm grateful to the work that he put in and getting that going. But IRC it was the same type of thing for us, right? It was a place for us to get together online and hang out and talk. I've been chatting with people all over the planet for decades.
Yeah, I was very active on IRC back from about 99 to 2007 or 8. But since then, I had to actually go make money.
Yeah, well, that's I got to where I was mostly only active in one channel, and even there, I'm only active occasionally nowadays. But it was a sysadmin channel, so it was day job related, and people I've known since about almost my earliest days on IRC. So, and then several of whom are on the Fediverse now, and one of whom posted yesterday some pictures from a Japanese garden that involved a waterfall and a hummingbird. They're pictures, but it posted on Mastodon because Mastodon can do pictures. And it's like, okay, yeah. I got to see them, and it's pretty cool. So
yeah, I've got a 4-character X Twitter or X account. You don't see too many that are only 4 characters.
No, but we see lots of posts that only have 4 characters. Anyway, we, like I say, you can play with it. You can post all kinds of things, and it, just like any other tool, use it for the things you like and enjoy. And then, but yeah, for Mug, please post. That'll be my best way of keeping an eye on what you guys have got coming up for topics and stuff, so that I can attend when I can. It's not the remote part; it's the time zone part, as I mentioned earlier. But if things come into alignment, I'd like to. That's how I got started. My first event I went to, John Mad Dog Hall was in town. I finally remembered about the meeting before it was over, and actually left work and got there. And he did some great technical content, but then he talked about community and how that was important, and we have to work together to build it. And I was like, he's right, and that's what got me started with my local group. And now I've given talks on multiple continents, all over the stuff. Speaking of which, Tubix is organizing, so if anybody speaks Germany and will be in Germany this summer, they're looking for talks.
Are you going?
I would love to, but no, I can't afford to do that. That's I got to speak at Tubix years ago. It was fun, and for me, it was important in the end because I got to meet somebody who, like Craig, was one of the most important people in the German-speaking Linux community. And then he died 2 years ago of the same cancer that killed Neil Peart, which is big for Craig and I. And so that was the one time I got to actually interact with him and say thanks, because he was it was his documentation and the things that he did that helped me get learning and started and get this rolling as a career where people pay me to play. You know, so.
You know, I'm just looking at the post from the mug.org account. Something to note for people. You put a hashtag there of mug.org. If people click on that from within Mastodon, you can actually follow that hashtag. And that way, anything that gets posted to that, you'll see. I don't know if that was mentioned before, but I don't recall hearing it. I may have zoned out for a minute and missed it. But you can actually follow the hashtag itself. So if anybody posts mug.org with the hashtag, it'll show up in your feed.
Yep. Yeah, I mentioned that, but it was part of a larger sentence. So, you know, but good to point out. So you can follow an account. You can, as of about 8 months ago, 12 months ago, I can't remember when we added that. You can now also follow particular hashtags, just like you would for an account. So if you find a topic you like,
well, that's interesting.
you can add that to your feed. Like I said, finding content on the Fediverse at this point with Mastodon anyway is cake, because there's several different ways to find something, and you can find out what's going on, what people are talking about.
Yeah, and if you click on the hash mug, you'll see lots of coffee mugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some nice ones.
So there we go. Well, you know, it's getting two things for Craig together, right?
Sure.
Coffee and free software. So
really.
Yeah.
Just along in the early part of the presentation, you mentioned Big Blue Button being used for, and I used
that would get your attention.
Yeah, I was really enthusiast for that for a bit. I had like 3 servers at PenguinCon one time, and of course nobody paid any attention. I don't know, maybe I was just too early or something. Nobody had any need for an online, you know, sharing thing. But yeah, I'm real happy to see that somebody's still using Big Blue Button. I was surprised for a while there. It kind of went dormant and all that. So it's good that, you know, some open source products that really, you know, struggle somehow find their way.
We've been using it for years here in town. So at PenguinCon, I tried to use Big Blue Button and Jitsi. The 1 year I put in and said that's what I wanted to use, and then they ignored that and set me up with Zoom or something else, and just that was an unpleasant experience with the way they had it set up. I don't think it was Zoom. I think it was something I don't remember. Anyway, it wasn't what I wanted to use, but it's too late to change it. But yeah, the 1 year though where we could, I think, that's what it was. The 1 year we could bring our own, and so I brought either Big Blue Button or Jitsi. I can't remember which one I had. And then the next year when I chose that, they gave me something else instead. But our local loco has been hosting Big Blue Button out of somebody's house for almost 15 years. Back when it was Flash based, and I would not use it because I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And then they got rid of the Flash based stuff and moved to web. I forget what it's called, web something, whatever the current standard is for doing video over HTML, or over HTTP, excuse me. And I think I did these before the pandemic, but anyway, latest around then, I set up an account, and that's what I've been using for Plug and for my personal stuff the whole time. I pay $40 a month for the account, but it's totally been worth it. For my kid, you know, we could set up play dates for their friends at the beginning of the pandemic, so they could get on and hang out and talk and stuff like that. And it wasn't going into somebody else's today AI pool, but whatever they were sucking data into back then. And then actually when they went back to school in the fall that first year, the school was using Big Blue Button. So really? The kids were like, we know how to use this, and helping the teacher, and thought it was great. So That was just luck. But it's worked well. But Plug is also small, so I don't know how well it does under huge loads. Hope did a few years ago on a really massively oversized instance. They're like, how big can we get it? And had I think 100 plus people on the instance. But the problem there was when you turned on all the cameras, because it doesn't do central spyware like Zoom does, it can't resize the images. So everybody that's got the images coming in is getting a full stream. So my client crapped out before the server did because my local bandwidth got overwhelmed with it all. So it's for the small group, it's worked well. And I know of several conferences that have used it for fairly large groups with quite a few attendees. But even there, you don't have that many cameras on, right? Because it's mostly a few people presenting and everybody else watching.
Sure.
So I try to use it for Parliament with them yelling at each other. I don't know how well it works for that, but I don't know how. I don't think that works well for anything, regardless of the medium. It can be entertaining for somebody who's not involved in that whatsoever or subject to it, but. So, and I also had Jitsi that I paid for, but they got to where they insisted on putting my email address like that in the video. And I was like, no. So I stopped paying them. All right. Anything else?
I don't have any more questions yet, but I want to thank you again for coming tonight and doing this for us. This has been great.
Yeah. Ping the group and ask, ping me, just plain ask on the net if you find something you don't understand. And then also follow the Feta tips. Murph gave a good thing on that. That person is going through and basically putting out tips on a regular basis, and once a week post something I didn't know about. So that's nice. One of the ones that was on there is on the search. You could actually search for your own post. I think it's from me or something like that is the key to put the search, but that's a way of going through and searching your own timeline without having to search the entire public timeline. It's one of the things I picked up from their posts. I don't know if male, female, rock, dog, whatever. I don't know what kind of being is behind that. But it predates ChatGPT and is more syntactically correct. So I think it's a human.
The Speta.tips site looks really helpful.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff there.
Yep. So it's like the rest of the world. Play. Have fun.
Yeah. Can't break it, right?
No, and the thing is you don't have to follow every post, right?
Sure.
We don't, if you go away for the weekend or for a month, you can come back and just mark all red and start again from where you are. Just like, if there's a conversation taking place in that restaurant the rest of us aren't in, we're going to miss that too. Once this,
sure.
Maybe right now we can catch it, but once the video turns off, we're going to miss it. Same thing. Like I say, I've followed a lot of people but they're in feeds I don't look at. So I don't see their posts until somebody else forwards it over to a feed I look at. But I want to follow them because I do go look at their stuff once in a while. Or like, for instance, if I were going to Tubix or participating in that, I would turn them on in my normal feed for right now as they're getting ready to start. And then I would drop them again afterwards.
Okay.
So that they're only short term in there. I do that for Scale. I go to Scale most year. I didn't go this last year, but other than that, I've gone to everyone for like 15 years. So I turned that up and turn up the Scale 2024 or the Scale 20, the years hashtag, and have that in my Sobin. I think what that is in English. Sorry, but things that are going on right now feed, and what's in there goes up and down all the time based on what it is I'm wanting to look at, or what I have time to look at. Right? If I you know, if I get locked up somewhere and I've got nothing but social media, I'll turn on more things. So, cool. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna drop off. Y'all
Okay,
have.
I'm going to save the chat and send it to you.
Thank you. Have a fantastic month.
Thank you so much.
And I've got an email coming to you for some ideas on that too, by the way. So if you don't see that tonight or tomorrow, ping me and remind me to actually send the email. I have to finish writing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to stick around here for till 9 o'clock. So if anybody wants to just chat about any random stuff.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Hans.
Thank you.
Let's see. Well, he covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, there's just like a lot of different groups out here too. I'm stumbling around trying to find some things that I'm interested in, and I can't find them. I don't know if they're just not there, or if I'm using the wrong keywords or whatever.
So you don't have my problem where you find too many things that you're interested in?
Well, I'm looking for a specific thing. Yeah, so obviously I'm going to find all kinds of interesting things, but there are a few, hot button items that I'm looking for. So, and the descriptions on these things are just pretty poor.
Yeah, I think
if they're exceptionally specific, you may have a hard time getting it.
And you kind of have to go to the description of some of them and actually go to their feed and see how people describe themselves or the account describes itself.
Well, I'm finding I have to sign up for some of these in order to see what the content is,
Wait, what do you mean by that? You shouldn't have to sign up for anything.
Really?
Yeah, I've been able to see pretty much the details and the feed for any account that I've been interested in looking at.
Okay. Well,
are you signed in on your account?
Well, I just created one. So, maybe I'm not doing something right here.
So, Jim, are you going to be putting this up on the website?
What? Am I going to put what up on the website? Hans said he would send me his presentation. I will try to get that up on the mug site. Of course, we have the YouTube video, which I will figure out how to get edited and put that and make sure that's available on the YouTube channel. But yeah, once Hans sends me that, I just sent him an email with that meeting chat in it, and hopefully he'll respond with the slideshow.
Oh, I see. There's a PenguinCon-social.
Really?
Yeah, PenguinCon social. PenguinCon-social. So maybe I'm just not putting the dash in it. I want to do science fiction, right? Put in science fiction, I get 92 different things. Okay, so I just went to penguicon.social/explore. And I'm going to look at the posts here. Nothing is trending right now. So is that the way I'm supposed to look at this and find this?
No.
What you would want to do is you go there to find people or hashtags to follow from your account. So you're not on Penguin. I'm assuming you're not on penguincon.social. You're on something else. So if you look at penguicon.social, you can look at their stuff, but you're not signed into their account.
Okay, so if I want to see the things on Penguicon Social, I have to go to my location and what somehow.
You that's a good question. I don't know if you can actually just look at their local feed. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I just went to penguicon.social/explore. On the right-hand side,
Yeah.
there's explore and there's live feeds.
Oh, okay.
On the right-hand column, do you see that? Click
Yes.
live feeds.
Ah, okay.
Now, this
So,
isn't
all right.
just stuff
Yes.
from their server, but it's people from that server, and then you can click other servers. These are other ones that server is touching.
Okay.
Usually,
I get it now.
what I tell people to do if you want to find stuff. Now, to find a very specific thing, this doesn't work. But if you're just looking for stuff in general, look at your server's local feed that shows people that are on your server. Assuming you picked something, somewhat thematic that you're interested in, you're going to see other people that are interested in those things. You find a few people that interest you, that post things that interest you, and you follow them. You follow those people, and then you sort of get the ball rolling that way. So between that and, bless you, following hashtags, that's a good way to get the ball rolling with that. And then you watch what other people post and get going from there.
Okay, so maybe it takes a little bit of practice to do that.
Yeah. Well, you
It
can't
does.
break it.
It's complicated.
It's the downside of, you can go on the big social networks and get an algorithm force feeding you what they want you to see. The only problem with not having an algorithm is when you start out, you are creating your algorithm yourself. And until you get that ball rolling, there's not a whole lot going on. So looking at the local feed and the federated feed show you some of what's going on before you get into stuff.
So I mentioned earlier, I'm on Octodon.social. I have my account. Yeah. I've followed maybe 20 different people. So when people post, like I follow Michael Lucas, when he posts something to his account, I will see that in my feed, right? Because I'm following him.
Correct. Yes,
okay.
and sorry, you're following Michael. The consequences of that are somewhat dire,
yeah,
and I'm sure he'd agree with that.
I follow him on Facebook, and I see his content already, but
something of a masochist already. Okay, so that explains it anyway.
Sure.
But if you're only following 20 people, you're going to have a very quiet feed, because unless those people are unless those people are prolific, you're not going to see anything. What you need to do is watch who they follow and look, if these are people that interest you, look at the hashtags that they post and click on it and see if that hashtag gives you good information. Follow the hashtag. And then you'll pull in anybody that posts about that hashtag. You'll see those posts come in. That will start to liven your feed up. That's how you get things into your feed. And then eventually you might say, oh, too many people talking about DNS, then you unfollow the DNS thing, or whatever, like you sort of oversubscribe early and then cut things out when they become too noisy.
Right.
At least that's my opinion. Other people might say that's a terrible way to do it, but that's a way to do it.
Okay, yeah, so I'm starting to see this now. So I did a hashtag Penguicon, saw Matt Arnold out here. I know him, so I follow him. And so if I see anything from Matt Arnold, he might have cross-posted as something else. I can follow that and eventually build up a whole routine of people.
Exactly. And then in the Mastodon interface, are you folks, the people that are new to this, are you using the single column interface?
I think I am.
You know what? I'm going to back off. If you are, great. Just be aware there's an advanced interface that gives you more stuff you can look at, which is neat. Maybe if you'll allow me, I'll share my screen. I'll show you the advanced interface and
Okay.
blow your mind.
Oh, geez. Not sure I can afford that.
Just give me a second. I want to move this to its own window so I don't accidentally grab a different one. I do not see a share screen thingy on my screen.
On your Zoom interface?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You got to give me a second here. I forgot
Yeah.
we're on Zoom. I was thinking we're on Big Blue Button or something. So I have to pull it up. I don't trust the Zoom client as far as I can throw the entire corporation. So I have Zoom running in a VM.
Yeah.
So give me a second. Let me see if I have my credentials in here. If I can pull it up. Oh, I do. Okay. So that's not so bad. So I was like pulling it up on the other screen. I'm like, oh, that screen doesn't exist to Zoom in here because they're in their own little world. So let me share screen. Oh, can I not do a single window? Bear with me for 1 second here. What happened? Oh, what happened to everything here?
I don't know.
Can you folks still hear me? Oh, there
I
it
hear
is.
you.
It's minimized.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The whole thing went away. I'm like, they're gone. Let me see. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to minimize this. I'll give you desktop and we'll share. So this is the advanced interface here. Okay. And you can see I have several columns. I'm going to just simplify things. So what we've got is we've got the home feed right here. So that's who I have subscribed to and only who I've subscribed to, including hashtags. That'll be in there. The local timeline is everyone that's on the server I'm on. And in this case, this is gardenstate.social, which is an account I set up. You know, when Hans was talking about you don't want to expose people's deepest, darkest secrets, I use this one for public stuff. I don't have anybody's deepest, darkest secrets on here. My Hackerstown one might have that occasionally. So on this, so gardenstate.social, this is all people that are posting local to this instance.
Okay.
Then I have a column that's just doing certain things. So it looks for New Jersey, NJ, Flipper Zero, or BRZ, which is sort of a mishmash of a bunch of different things that I'm interested in. So you can see I get some local New Jersey stuff. I will get things on Valid. Oh, no, that's on the other one. I get a lot of different stuff in here, though. So I sort of have a column of things that, and if you go in here,
this looks much more useful than what the interface I'm using.
The advanced interface. And it's funny, the Zoom title bar was right over what I needed to click, so it wouldn't let me click it.
Yeah.
So you can put in, so it started with just New Jersey, and then I added in some other things.
Sure.
So that I can have a feed, I can have a column in there of just some hashtags I want to focus on.
Okay.
And then I have it pinned. You click, there's a button that says pin. I could unpin it, but I don't want to do that because the whole thing will go away. So you can create a set of filters. You can pin it to your advanced desktop, and then you'll have that always running in the background. And then whatever you click on. So if I want to see, oh, what's data of New Jersey, that comes up in the last column, which is the last thing you've clicked on, whether that's something you want to reply to or something you want to read more extensively. This is a bot that goes to different New Jersey government sites and pulls data in from the API, but it repeats a lot. So it's less interesting than I was really hoping for. But they tag New Jersey, so I get it in my feed. So,
okay. How do you turn on this advanced feed?
Okay. You go to, and I'm going to show you if you're saying, hey, you're doing it in your thing, I'm going to switch over to the other one. So you go to preferences one way or the other. You click enable advanced interface. So I'm going to save it, and then I'll show you how to do it from the regular interface because I didn't remember how. Okay. So you're looking at this interface. What you do is go to preferences down here.
Yeah, I found the preferences. I'm looking for the advanced interface.
It's
on there.
it's right. It's one of the first things on there, advanced web
Ah,
interface.
I see it.
So,
I see it.
so you can enable that. Now, I don't push people to that right away, except for tonight,
Yeah.
which I've broken my general rule, because I don't like to overwhelm people. But if you're
Right.
a reasonably experienced Twitter user, this should not be any this shouldn't be too
Right.
challenging for you. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
configurability here. If you have a wider screen, you can even put more stuff on there. I have this limited because
Yeah.
it's a VM.
Yeah.
But you could have, 5 or 6 columns of different things that you want to track at any time.
Way cool. Yeah.
So
that
I've
seems
shown
more
you the
useful.
deeper underbelly of Mastodon,
Yeah.
which sounds kind of gross,
Yeah.
but there it is.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm like the cleanup batter after Hans here. I'm
Yeah. Right.
answering questions.
Right. Right. I appreciate it. That's way cool.
I'm glad to help because like I say, I've done talks on this and Hans does them and I did them for his group.
Mhm.
So I haven't done them for you guys. I thought I did a talk for you folks at one point in the past. I might have done Screen or my home lab talk, one of those.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. I don't remember what you talked about.
Yeah, it was a few years. I don't remember what I talk about. I don't pay attention to me either. So
We'll get you. We'll get you back though.
Yeah, I have a fresh presentation on Tmux if you've had enough of Mastodon for a while.
A TMX presentation would be great. What are you doing in July?
Yeah. In July, let's see. That's a bad time. That's like right
Okay.
after the Hope Conference, and I'm probably going to be
All right. Well, I'm just going to make a
recovering
note
at that
that
point.
we're gonna reach out to you sometime in the coming months.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got a Mastodon talk of my own, but you might want to give it a few months after Hans's. And
Yeah. I don't think we need to do too many all at once on Mastodon.
too many in a row. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got a nice Tmux talk I've just polished up. I'll be doing at the Hope Conference in New York in July. And I actually want to work on a Valid talk, but I can't do that yet because I don't understand it. So once I get it, I want to work a talk up on it.
Okay.
But I'm sort of hovering around
use
the
us for
outside edges of
practice.
it. What's that?
Use us for practice.
That's right.
That may come to pass. I appreciate that. I usually
Yeah,
use my
that's-
local lug as the beta
Well,
testers.
You wouldn't be the first one to do that. We encourage it. We
Oh,
like to
yeah.
tell people, even if you've never given a talk before, come here because we're relatively friendly most of the time. And the mug is a great place to hone your speaking skills or start your speaking.
Yes, I like I say,
What's that?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
with the questions that follow up could probably help to expand the presentation
Sure,
or polish it.
sure.
absolutely. But I'm
right.
coming up soon on that one. I'm already nervous and I'm setting up slides and doing actually someone was talking about that earlier, the text mode presentation, because Tmux is all about text manipulation. The slides
Yeah.
are all in text. It's all text.
Good. Yeah, that was me asking about that. But
Yeah,
I
okay.
think I got a couple of really good things to look at, so I'm going to be doing that too. But it's a little after 9:00. I can't hang around. I'm not sure if I can. Since I started the meeting, I'm not sure I can leave it running. But I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. It was great.
Yeah.
And we'll certainly, like Lauren Michaels says, Saturday Night Live doesn't go on at 11:30 on Saturday night because it's ready. It goes on because it's Saturday night at 11:30,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how Mug works. We're going to have a meeting on Tuesday, July 9th, not because we're ready, but because it's Tuesday, July 9th.
Mhm.
So we'll see you all then for sure.
All
right.
right. See you later.
Thanks, Jim.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks a lot. See you
Thanks,
later,
guys.
folks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.